Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly excited to unpack today's source material with you because honestly, we are about to completely dismantle a really common myth. For far too long, society has treated IQ as just this fixed genetic number, like it's a permanent score stamped on your forehead the minute you're born. But the fascinating insights we're exploring today reveal that intelligence is way more dynamic than that. It's not just about what you were born with, it's actually about the mental habits you cultivate every single day.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want to immediately test your presence of mind with a quick riddle straight from our source. Listen closely to this one. You are a pilot. You fly a plane to Dubai, then to Delhi, where you drop off 200 passengers. Then you fly back to Dubai and drop off 183 passengers. Based on all that information, what is the pilot's age? Think about it. How could dropping off passengers possibly tell you a pilot's age? Lock your answer in mentally, because I'm going to reveal the solution at the very end of this explainer.
Now, if that riddle kind of has you scratching your head right now, don't worry at all. The core message of our source material is actually incredibly empowering. Missing simple puzzles or making an occasional bad decision, that is not a life sentence of a low IQ. Instead, it's usually just a sign that we need to fine-tune our mental habits. Real intelligence is an active process. It's a series of totally correctable behaviors, and it heavily depends on exactly how you choose to process the world around you.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be taking a structured journey through 6 key areas: the real mind game, the lack of curiosity, black and white thinking, emotions and critical thinking, out of the comfort zone, and finally, your true intelligence. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The real mind game. Testing presence of mind. Intelligence doesn't just show up in those massive, life-altering decisions. Very often, it hides in how we process immediate, everyday situations. Let's look at a super quick scenario to demonstrate this. Imagine you're running a race, sprinting with absolutely all your might, and you finally overtake the person in second place. What position are you in now? Instinctively, your brain probably shouts, "First place!" But pause your autopilot for just a second. If you overtake the person in second place, you simply take their spot. You are now in second place. This beautifully illustrates how critical thinking actually requires us to actively stop our brain's automatic lazy responses.
Moving on to Section 2, the lack of curiosity, the power of asking why.
And this brilliantly illustrates our first major trap. Think back to that natural, literally boundless curiosity we all had as children. The contrast is wild. We go from this childlike wonder, where we're constantly asking why because everything is new and fascinating, to adult autopilot, where we just accept boring routines without ever questioning them. The source makes a great point. The person who continuously asks questions is fundamentally more intelligent than the person who just wants to provide answers. When we stop being curious, we literally stifle our brain's capacity to grow.
So, how do we get that curiosity back? Well, look at people who engage in strategic games, like playing chess or solving Sudoku. A chess player isn't just looking at the board exactly as it is. They're constantly predicting future moves. They're thinking, okay, if I move here, what's their next move going to be? They are actively questioning the scenario. The source notes that people who engage in these types of activities naturally train their brains to be curious, and that habit spills right over into smarter, much more engaged daily living.
All right, Section 3. Black and white thinking, moving into the gray.
We often run into this massive cognitive barrier: black and white thinking. To understand how severely this limits our intelligence, let's look at a fascinating historical case study: the infamous decisions of King Mohammed bin Tughlaq. Back in 1327, he shifted his capital from Delhi to Delatabad. Then in 1329, he introduced a symbolic token currency. Now, history textbooks often label him a foolish king because both of these massive initiatives failed spectacularly due to long travel times, public suffering, and rampant counterfeiting. But were the ideas themselves actually foolish? Now, what's really interesting about this is how we judge failure. Black and white thinking is honestly just lazy. It says, he failed, therefore he was a foolish king. But gray thinking looks deeper. It says, wait a minute, moving the capital to centrally control a massive empire? That was strategically sound. And using symbolic currency to manage the economy? That's exactly what modern nations do today. The ideas were actually brilliant. It was the execution, the lack of control systems, and the bad timing that failed. Intelligent people analyze that gap between an idea and its execution. They live in the gray.
So how do you actually train yourself to think in the gray?
The source offers a highly actionable 3-question framework that you can use every single day. When you're faced with a situation, just ask yourself, first, is what I am seeing the full reality? Second, could there be another reason behind this? And third, if I were in that exact situation, would I make the same decision? Applying these 3 questions instantly shifts your mindset from rigid, quick judgment to mature, intelligent analysis.
Section 4. Emotions and Critical Thinking, the Trap of Reaction. We hear the term low IQ thrown around a lot, right? But what people call low IQ is very often just poor emotional control disguised as bad decision-making. Consider this little micro scenario. You've been up literally all night writing study notes. In the morning, you accidentally knock over your coffee onto half of them. Reacting means instantly losing your temper, throwing things, and angrily tearing up the remaining dry notes in pure frustration. Responding means staying calm, salvaging the dry notes, and just cleaning up the mess. If someone watches you tear up your own surviving work in a fit of rage, they won't just think you're angry, they'll literally think you have a low IQ because you've needlessly multiplied your own problems. Which brings us to an absolutely golden rule from the source. Never make major life decisions when you are extremely angry or deeply in love. Extreme emotions completely hijack our critical thinking. Throw in a lack of sleep or high stress, and our emotional control basically drops to zero. It is absolutely imperative that we force ourselves to hit pause before acting during those intense emotional highs or lows. Because when we let our emotions take the wheel, we stop thinking critically, and that makes us incredibly vulnerable. The source really emphasizes this need to verify, don't just absorb. We see this all the time online, don't we? People will download scammy apps promising thousands of dollars a day just because they read one paid comment. Or worse, the source shares a really chilling example of people believing a clickbait video that suggested putting soot from a pan into a child's weak eye instead of just going to a doctor. Blindly trusting an algorithm without critical thought isn't just foolish, it can be downright dangerous.
Moving to Section 5, Out of the Comfort Zone, Embracing Discomfort.
So the crucial point here is that a massive sign of stalled intelligence is avoiding discomfort. As humans, our natural tendency is always going to be to seek out the easiest path. But as this powerful quote summarizes, brain growth happens in discomfort, not comfort. Think about it. If you constantly choose the easy route, like only watching a quick 5-minute summary video right before an exam instead of doing detailed, focused studying, you are actively starving your brain of the challenge it actually requires to grow and adapt. Mental strength absolutely requires mental friction. The creator of the source material shares this incredibly fascinating experiment to prove this. He found himself wondering one day why horses never sit down. Now, the comfortable route would be just pulling out his phone and Googling the answer from his couch. Instead, he chose extreme discomfort. He literally brought a real horse to his set. He put in the hard physical and mental work to safely figure out how to make the horse sit. This resulted in 2 full days of deep, distraction-free effort. By challenging himself physically and mentally, he achieved a level of deep learning and satisfaction that a quick Google search could never, ever provide. So, we really have to look at our own lives and see where we might be falling into that comfort trap. Are we choosing one-shot summary videos over detailed, deep-dive studying? Are we mindlessly scrolling social media instead of intentionally consuming useful educational content? Are we binge-watching a web series for an entire week instead of engaging in tasks that actually challenge us? The source is super clear on this. Entertainment is totally fine in moderation, but we must actively curate our online diets. We just cannot afford to spend weeks consuming content that teaches us absolutely nothing and leaves our brain completely unchallenged.
And finally, Section 6, Your True Intelligence, the Big Payoff.
Let's bring this all together and see how this builds back to the very beginning of our explainer. By identifying these traps, we arrive at a really liberating truth. True intelligence is a muscle built through intentional choices. So remember our open-loop riddle from earlier? Let's test if you caught that vital first clue. You are a pilot, you fly to Dubai, then Delhi, drop some passengers, fly back, drop some more. What is the pilot's age? Did you get it? The pilot's age is literally your age. The riddle started with the exact words, you are a pilot. All those numbers about passengers and destinations, that was just noise designed to distract you. The answer was hiding in plain sight the entire time, just waiting to test your presence of mind and critical thinking. Which leaves us with one final, totally vital question to ponder from today's explainer. Will you continue running on autopilot, or will you actively shape the habits that build your true intelligence? The choice is entirely yours. Embrace the discomfort, ask why, live in the gray, and start building that intellectual muscle today.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.